Hello, everybody. Hello. Let me know if everyone can hear me. Let me know if my screen looks okay, and then we will go ahead and get started. All right. Awesome. All right. Well, hello, coders, and welcome to another week of our ICD-10-CM Guideline Mastery sessions. I am Miss Haley, your lead instructor for this class, and I am so excited to welcome new and returning coders to our Monday night class. Today, we will be going over and reviewing all of our infectious disease guidelines. This is going to include HIV, which we touched on last week, sepsis, MRSA, and COVID. So we are going to be picking up the pace of this class, and instead of going over every single guideline, we are going to move to a little more advanced guideline scenarios so we can really reach that guideline mastery. And at the end of our guideline practice, we are going to have a live game so we can have review of the guidelines and a little fun as well. All right. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and read the copyright. So ICD-10-CM copyright 2026, American Medical Association, all rights reserved. Fee schedules, relative value units, conversion factors, and or related components are not assigned by the AMA, are not part of CPT or ICD-10-CM, and the AMA is not recommending their use. The AMA does not directly or indirectly practice medicine or dispense medical services. The AMA assumes no liability for data contained or not contained. ICD-10-CM is a registered trademark of AAPC. AAPC content found within this presentation is copyright of AAPC. Keyword concept FTR, CHUN, AMCI Fab 7, AMCI ICD-10 Flip, TAP, and MCG are trademarks of AMCI. The credentials CPC, CRC, COC, CPMA, CPB, CPPM, CPCO are owned by the AAPC. AMCI does not own the rights to these credentials. The credentials CCA, CCS, CCS-P, RHIA, RHIT are owned by AHIMA. AMCI does not own the rights to these credentials. All right. So we are going to start off with a little warm-up just so we can kind of get our infectious disease guideline juices flowing. So here is going to be our first warm-up question. And I'm just going to give you guys just a second to solve this. So what does MRSA stand for? Does it stand for methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, methicillin-resistant Streptococcus aureus, moderate resistant susceptible aureus, or mild resistant Streptococcus aureus? All right, so again, I will give you just a minute just to get that one solved, and we will move on with our warm-up. Let me see. I will go ahead and look at the comments. All right, amazing. And I see that we are already getting a lot of responses. All right, so it is indeed going to be a methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. And okay. And so in the ICD-10-CM alphabetic index, how you would find this, you would go to the index, you would look for infection, and then you would go to staphylococcal unspecified site, and then that'll take you to aureus, and then methicillin resistant. So that's how you get the MRSA. And then these are going to be just some codes that are related to MRSA. So the A40.1, the J15.3, and the R65.20. All right. Our next warm-up question is going to be, what category is used for sepsis of a newborn? Is it going to be the category A, A41, B, B20, C, P36, or D, R65.2? Let us know in the chat. I will give you guys a few seconds. All right, I am getting a lot of wonderful answers in the chat. That is some great participation. So the answer for this is going to be, so if you go on the guidelines, before we get to the answer, if you go on the guidelines, it has newborn sepsis, and then it says to see section I.C.16F, bacterial sepsis of newborn. So you kind of have to do a little digging to get to this guideline. So you would go on, and I think this is page 976. This is going to be in chapter 16 under certain conditions originated in the perinatal period section. So if you look at the sepsis guidelines, it prompts you to see this specific guideline. So as you can see, it says right here, category P36 is for bacterial sepsis of a newborn. So that is going to be the answer. It is going to be C, which everyone put. So amazing job, guys. Amazing job. All right, to continue on our warm-up. So possible, probable, or suspected COVID-19 can be coded as U07.1. Is it going to be true or is it going to be false? Let me know. I'll give you guys a few seconds. All right. Amazing job as per usual, everyone. Okay, so this is going to be false. So we have quite a few guidelines that prompt you to different codes that you can use for if you see possible, probable, suspected. So the guidelines you can use to get to this answer, we have an exposure to COVID-19. We have a guideline for that. We have a screening for COVID-19. A guideline for that. And then we also have a guideline to just code signs and symptoms without definitive diagnosis of COVID-19. So there are many ways that you can use these guidelines and get to the answer of false, but however you guys did it, it was correct. So yes, you cannot code a possible. That is correct. Great research, guys. Awesome. And then this is going to be our last warm-up question, and then we're going to get to some more in-depth scenarios. So what code would you use for unspecified sepsis? So are we thinking A, R65.2? Are we thinking B, A41.9, C, 098.2, or D, P36? How would we code unspecified sepsis? I will give you guys a few seconds. Okay, so yes, the answer to this is going to be B. So how we're going to find this is we're just going to look up the basic sepsis guideline. So for diagnosis of sepsis, you're going to assign the appropriate code for the underlying system infection. So this is going to lead you to choose the A41.9 sepsis, unspecified. So amazing job, everybody. All right. After the warm up, how are we feeling? Are we ready to move to some coding scenarios? What do you guys think? You guys did absolutely amazing in the warm up. So I hope that you are super, super proud of yourself, patting yourself on the back. All right. And we will go ahead and get started with our more in-depth scenarios. All right, so this is going to be our first of the night. So a 22-year-old developed gas gangrene, so gas bacillus infection, and went into septic shock after a surgical procedure. So what ICD-10-CM codes should be reported? I'll let you guys figure this one, give you guys a few seconds, and then we will go into explanation on it. All right, so I see some answers in, and if we're still solving it, then keep going at it, but I'm going to go ahead and get to our explanation. So the key words that I am going to take out of this are going to be gas gangrene, that's going to be the first, then septic shock, and then after being important. So after a surgical procedure, after is being the key word. And then the guideline that we're going to be using for this is going to be our septic shock guideline. So this is going to be septic shock, generally referring to circular failure. And then right here, you can see for cases of septic shock, the code for systematic infection should be sequenced first, followed by code R65.21, severe sepsis with septic shock, or code T81.12, post-procedural septic shock. So with that being said, this is the guideline we're going to be using, and we will be coding the systematic infection first, followed by our septic shock code. And since this is a post-procedural septic shock, because it says right here after the surgical procedure, we are going to be using the T81.12 code. And so that's why I wanted to emphasize the after in our keywords. So that is why A is going to be incorrect, because this codes severe sepsis without septic shock. So B is also incorrect because R65.21 is also a code for severe sepsis without septic shock. This makes B and C both incorrect. That would make both B and C incorrect because they both are using that code. And that makes D the correct answer, with A48.0, the code for gas gangrene, and T81.12XA, and that is going to be the code for post-procedural septic shock initial encounter. So right here, this is how it's going to look when you're looking it up in the ICD-10-CM book. So right here, we have our gas gangrene, and that's going to be the A48, and then the T81.12. And if you look at the guidelines right here, it says code first underlying infection. And if you need to use an additional code, so you kind of have to pay attention to everything that the codes are giving you, and definitely make sure that you read everything that you're able to read, because it might direct you to something different. So is this making sense? I know that was like a little bit of a crazy one. Did the explanation help? Are we realizing the guideline? I'm telling you, that's why these guidelines are so important, because if you don't read them, then you would think that it would be a different thing. And so that's why we definitely need to be mastering those guidelines for sure. Okay, I'm glad that the explanation helped. Amazing. You guys are doing awesome, though. You guys are doing awesome. All right, and we are going to move on. Yep, so that's going to make the answer D. And we are going to move on to our next coding scenario. All right, so next one is going to be a 54-year-old patient presents to the emergency department with fever, cough, shortness of breath, loss of taste, and fatigue for 3 days. The patient is worried they may have COVID-19. A rapid COVID-19 test is performed in the emergency department and is negative. A PCR test is sent, but results are pending at the time of discharge. The provider documents viral syndrome, COVID-19 suspected. The patient is discharged at home with instructions to self-isolate and follow up for test results. No definitive diagnosis of COVID-19 is made in the record. So with that, your options are going to be A, U07.1, B, Z20.822, U07.1, C, R50.9, R05.9, R06.2, R43.2, and R53.3. I think that's incorrect. There's just a double code, so ignore the double code in C. It's just one R50.9. I'm so sorry. And then D, B34.9, Z20.82. I know this is a long one, so I will give you guys about a minute or two. You guys got it. All right, we are going to go ahead and hop into our explanation. If you are still solving, go ahead and do your thing. We're going to go ahead and get started. So starting off with the key words that we are going to note in this scenario. So our key words are going to be fever, cough, the shortness of breath, the loss of taste, and the fatigue. We're also going to note that the ED, so the ED test is negative. We're going to note the COVID-19 suspected with emphasis on the suspected, and no definitive diagnosis. So this is going to be the guideline we are focusing on to solve this. So it's going to be signs and symptoms without definitive diagnosis of COVID-19. So for patients presenting with any signs or symptoms associated with COVID, such as fever, etc., which fever is in here, so that's perfect, but a definitive diagnosis has not been established, assign the appropriate codes for each of the signs and symptoms. So there is not a positive test or direct recorded exposure to COVID. So the signs and symptoms should be coded. So this is going to eliminate option A and option B, which have the U07.1 code for a positive COVID case. And D would be incorrect because it codes for unspecified viral infection and exposure to COVID. And the exposure to COVID was not documented in the scenario. It just says that he worries he may have COVID-19. He doesn't specifically say that he has been directly exposed to COVID-19. So that is why D would be incorrect. And so you would look up in the ICD-10 book, you would look up fever unspecified, which is going to be the R50.9. And again, I apologize for posting the R50.9 twice. And we're also going to code, oh, I'm so sorry. But you do put it twice. So R05.9 cough unspecified. They're both going to be unspecified. And then R06.02 is going to be the shortness of breath code. Then we have our R43.2, and then this is going to be the abnormal perception of taste. So that is going to be the code for the loss of taste. And then our R53.83 is just going to be fatigue, not otherwise specified. So that is the guideline that you are going to be using, and that is how you get to this answer. I hope that the explanation made sense. Let me know if that makes sense in the chat. Yes, you don't code the specific. Yes. So there were a lot of, like I said, you definitely use the code words. The no definitive diagnosis would probably be the biggest keyword because it's kind of using the same kind of vernacular, the same words as this guideline right here without definitive diagnosis of COVID-19. And then, yes, you would just code the signs and the symptoms, and that's how you get, yep. All right. Thank you for letting me know. I'm glad that the explanation helped. All right. And yes, the answer would be C right here. Okay, let's move to our next scenario. Okay, so Mr. Sloan has bunions that are hot to the touch, purulent, and the patient says he has a fever. The history of present illness revealed that the patient also lost his health insurance and has self-treated what he says are bilateral bunions with industrial tools such as wood file and sander. Ouch. The patient has no other comorbidities. The physician diagnosed the patient with penicillin-resistant MRSA with left hallux valgus and right hallux rigidus. Which code best describes this encounter? Is it going to be A, Z16.11, M21.619, B, B95.62, M21.612, M20.21, C, Z16.11, B95.62, M21.612, M20.21, or D, B9 5.62, Z 16.11, M21.612, and M20.21. I will give you 1 or 2 minutes, coders, and the time is now. All right. All right. And if you guys are still solving, again, go ahead. And I want you coders, I want you to let me know what are some key words that you would take from this scenario? What are some key words you think that we should be paying attention to that you can take out of this scenario? Let me know in the chat. Yes, penicillin resistant. Amazing. That is definitely a keyword. MRSA. Yes. Amazing. Amazing job. Yes. Great job, guys. Great job. Yes. So some keywords that I put in are definitely the bunions, hot, the purulent, the fever, the penicillin resistant, as you guys said, the MRSA. I don't know why I just put MERS, but you guys know. And then left hallux and the right hallux rigidus. Amazing. Yes, great job. And then this is going to be the guideline that we are going to focus on to get to this answer. So it's going to be our combination codes for MRSA infection. So if you read this, you can see right here. I don't want to read the whole thing because I know it's a little long, but it says right here, do not assign code B95.62 methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus infection as the cause of disease classified elsewhere as additional code. Do not assign code from subcategory Z16.11 resistance to penicillin as additional diagnosis. So the bottom half of this guideline is going to be very important for this scenario specifically. So the patient was diagnosed with penicillin-resistant MRSA. The guideline stipulates to use a combination code when available and to never, there's an emphasis on never, code Z16.11 with B95.62. So in this case, it is sufficient to use the code B95.62 for the MRSA and not the penicillin resistant code, which would be the Z16.11. So this automatically is going to eliminate our A, our C, and our D because all of these codes include Z16.11. So, and we're not going to be using that code. So that would automatically eliminate all of those. And that is going to make B the correct answer. And these are going to be our codes that we are going to find in the ICD-10-CM book. So the B95.62 is our MRSA infection as the cause of disease classified elsewhere. So this is what you're going to see when you look it up in the book. Then this is going to be the M21.61. This is going to be the code for the bunion or the left hallux valgus. So that's going to be the code for that. And then the M20.2 is going to be the code for the hallux rigidus. So that is why that code is used. And you see that B is going to be the correct answer. All right. Amazing, guys. You guys had some awesome participation in the chat. I am seeing the answers flying in. And yes, even if the answer is correct, we are here to learn and we are here to master these guidelines. And I know there are so many. So we are here to get our practice in. That is why we are here. So I'm glad you guys are participating like you are in the chat and putting in some key words for the scenarios as well. You guys are doing awesome. All right, and we are going to move on to our next scenario of the night. All right, so a 75-year-old elderly Mr. Serro presents to the emergency department complaining of a high fever the day prior to the encounter and of extreme lethargy. He has a history of benign hypertension, which has been elevated. On arrival, he has examined and admitted with possible septic urinary traction infection, so a possible septic UTI, and concerns for his elevated high blood pressure. He was noted to have urinary frequency, positive UTI, and pseudonymous showed in the urine culture, and IV antibiotics were administered. During the course of the day, his fever decreased and his lethargy improved. As the IV fluids were decreased, he resumed a benign hypertensive state. On the next hospital day, the urine was clear and he was discharged on oral antibiotics with septicemia ruled out. What ICD-10-CM codes should be reported? So is it going to be A, B95.62, A41.52, N39.0, I10, B, B96.5, N39.0, I10, R35.0, C, N39.0, B96.5, I10, or D, I10, B95.62, R35.0, N39.0. I will give you guys about 2 minutes. Good luck. Oh no. I did not mean to click that. But those are going to be some key words. So there's a little clue to help you. Okay. All right. So I put up some keywords accidentally in the beginning. So keywords are going to be our elevated hypertension, and they're going to be our possible being emphasized, possible septic UTI, positive UTI, and the septicemia ruled out. And so with those keywords, this is going to be our guideline. Come on. All right, so our guideline that we're going to be using is negative or inconclusive blood cultures and sepsis. So negative or inconclusive blood cultures do not preclude a diagnosis of sepsis in patients with clinical evidence of the condition. So with that being in mind, since the septic UTI and the septicemia is ruled out, it does not need to be included in the coding sequence. So the reason for the encounter, so the RFE, is going to be the UTI. And if you look up the N39.0 in the alphabetic index, which I believe I put right here, it says use additional code B95 through B97 to identify the infectious agent. So since the pseudonymous or oh my goodness, I cannot speak. The Pseudomonas is the infectious agent listed. That is why B96.5 is going to be the next code listed. So if you look this up right here, this is going to be the code B96.5. And then we are going to code the I-10 code. And so because you see right here that he comes in, he has benign hypertension, so it's nothing of concern. But then it does say that it has been elevated, and it does say that they have concern for his elevated blood pressure. So that is why we are going to include the hypertension, and that is why we are going to have that I-10 right there. And then the urinary frequency and other symptoms are not included in the coding sequence because they are integral to the urinary tract infection. So having a UTI, that's going to include you urinating frequently. So that is why you do not need to code the urinary frequency separately. And that is going to make our answer C, which I see that a lot of people have put. That is absolutely amazing. I know that this was kind of a long one. It had a lot of keywords to take out of it. So you guys are absolutely rocking this. Yes, indeed. Boom. You guys are killing it. Great job. Great job. All right. If my mouse wants to have a great job, that would be awesome. All right. And then this is going to be our last coding scenario for tonight. And then we are going to try things out and do a little live Kahoot game after this. So this is going to be our last coding scenario. And then we're going to go to our fun live game. All right, so a patient is admitted to the hospital with streptococcal group B severe sepsis, which has caused pneumonia. What codes are assigned? Is it going to be A40.1, J15.3, R65.20, B, A41.9, R65.21, C, A40.1, J15.3, or D, A41.9, J15.3, R65.21. I'll give you guys about 2 minutes. Good luck. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. I see there's still answers that are coming in. You guys keep it up. So we're not going to really point out any, since it's such a short scenario, you can kind of just see everything is kind of a keyword in this scenario. This is going to be the guideline we are going to be using to solve this. So this guideline is going to be the sepsis or severe sepsis with a localized infection. So the reason for admission is sepsis or severe sepsis and a localized infection such as pneumonia or cellulitis. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you guys know, you guys get the gist of it. So per this guideline, if the reason for admission is both sepsis or severe sepsis and a localized infection, which it is here, such as cellulitis or pneumonia, a code for the systematic infection is assigned first, followed by the code for the localized infection. So if you're looking to find these in the alphabetic index, you're going to look for sepsis and then go to streptococcus and then streptococcal group and then group B, which directs you to the A4 0.1 for the systematic infection. And then A4 1.9 is coding for just sepsis, which would make it incorrect. And that would eliminate option B and D right here because it's coding for A4 1.9 right here. So that's going to eliminate option B and option D because that is coding for just sepsis. And we're going to be using the A4 0.1 instead. And if you look right here, the A41, it's going to be the streptococcal sepsis. And then if you go down here, the A4 0.1 is going to be sepsis due to streptococcus group B. So it's coding for both the localized infection and a sepsis. So that makes it the correct answer. And that is why B and D are going to be eliminated. And then next you have to code for the localized infection. So pneumonia is what we're going to be coding for because that's going to be our localized infection. Pneumonia can be found by, the same kind of way, going through the alphabetic index, looking for pneumonia, and then going through the process with that. And so if you look, you are going to come up with J15.3, and that is going to be pneumonia due to streptococcus group B. And then that is why that is going to be used. So referring back to the guideline, it states that if a patient has severe sepsis, that a code from the subcategory R65.2 should also be assigned as a secondary diagnosis. And so you're going to look that up in the ICD-10 handbook, and that is going to take you to right here, R65.20, and that is going to code for the severe sepsis without septic shock, because there's no septic shock that is included in this scenario. All right, and then that is going to make the correct answer A. So we have our A4.1, so our sepsis due to the group B. We have our J15, our pneumonia due to group B. And then we have our R65.20. You guys are killing it in the chat. Does that explanation make sense? I see a lot of people during the explanation were changing. You guys got some aha moments. Yes, exactly, as Ms. J loves to say. You guys did awesome on these. That is really awesome. You guys are getting your guideline mastery for sure. Yes, pat yourself on the back. So many hearts. Yes. Definitely. And like I said, I know there are a lot of guidelines, but this definitely just puts importance on, before you just go ahead and think how it's going to be sequenced. It is always better to double check because more than likely there is going to be a guideline kind of putting you in a different direction on how things need to be sequenced. All right. So now we are going to get to the fun stuff. I know that me and Miss Mills have had our medical terminology game. So this is just taking me back. I've never done a Kahoot live game on YouTube, but today is going to be that day. So Kahoot is just what we use. It's a gaming platform. It's kind of like trivia, if you will. So the way that you can join, you can go on www.kahoot.it, or you can download the Kahoot app if you want to do that. Or if you want to, you can just put your answers in the chat. You are more than welcome to do that. It is going to be, I believe, 10 questions. So it's not going to be anything crazy because I know we are almost running out of time. So the way you join this, you go on the website. I'm going to give you a PIN number. You type in that PIN number and you spin the wheel and you select your character, and then you are entered in the game. So I am going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to go ahead. It is for free. Yes, it is for free. You don't have to download. Thank you so much, Ms. Rosa, for putting the website on there. You don't have to download an app. You can just go on the website and type in the PIN number. Or if you just want to put your answers in the chat, you are more than welcome to do that as well. I'm going to go ahead and grab our game. And then we can go ahead and get started. All right. Share my screen. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Can you guys see my screen? All right. It's just loading. So if you go on the website, you are going to type in the PIN number. The PIN number is going to be 214581. I will go ahead and put that in the chat. It is going to be 214581. Amazing. Oh, we have our first joiner. Oh, nice, guys. You guys are doing it. All right. And I will go ahead. I think it gives you like 15 seconds every time someone starts in. So if you haven't joined in and the game starts, you can just put you can put in the PIN number whenever. So just because the game starts doesn't mean that you can't put in the PIN number. Okay. I see a lot of people are joining in. Nice job. Yes, and it's just a fun way. We're just gonna do some like easy going, nothing crazy, more guideline review. It's just in a fun way because it makes it a little competitive. All right, so it's gonna go ahead and just start the game, but you can still join even if you didn't get in there. All right, so we're gonna be doing our guideline mastery week 2. Let's get into it. All right, so a patient is admitted for cellulitis of the leg. 2 days later, the patient develops sepsis due to cellulitis. How are we coding this? Are we doing sepsis first, cellulitis second, sepsis only, cellulitis first, sepsis second, or cellulitis only? How are we coding this? I know it's very rapid. It's going to be super rapid. Oh my goodness. Okay. You guys are right. You're killing it. It's going to be cellulitis first, sepsis second. So we have Trendy Tiger at the top. Oh my goodness. I did not mean for it to go this fast, but we're rapid firing. Okay. When the reason for admission is sepsis, what is sequenced first? R65.2, P36. The sepsis code is sequenced first, or signs and symptoms? All right. This is going super fast. You guys are all right. Yes, you code the sepsis code first. Amazing job. Trendy Tiger, you are killing it at the top. Nice job. All right, next up. A patient is diagnosed with MRSA bacteria. No sepsis documented. Are we thinking A49.02, R78.81, B95.62, or A41.02? I know it's super fast. I'm going to fix this next time. Next round. Next game we play next week, I will make it a lot shorter. So this is going to be R78.81. Trendy Tiger, you're killing it, whoever you are. All right. Next up, a patient is seen for a routine exam and has a history of COVID. What are we thinking? Z20.822, Z11.52, U07.1, U07.1, or Z86.16. Give it your best shot, and I will make sure that we have more time to answer these questions next week, I promise. All right, Z86.16, that is going to be the answer. Bubbly Nightingale, you're killing it. All right, a patient requests HIV testing due to new sexual partners. No symptoms. Z20.6, B20, Z11.4, or Z21. What are we thinking? We have a few seconds with this one. Amazing. All right, it is going to be Z11.4. That is just going to be the code just for HIV screening. And Bubbly Nightingale, you are at the top. All right. What code is assigned for a patient who is screened for COVID but has no symptoms or no known exposure? Is it going to be Z86.16, R50.9, U07.1, or Z11.52? Oh no, someone put oops in the chat. All right, you guys got it. All right, it is going to be Z11.52. Amazing job. Yep, and we got some answers in the chat. Smiling Shark up at the top. All right, got a few more. A patient admitted with sepsis due to an infected diabetic foot ulcer. What is coded first? I will make these a lot easier if we're going to go faster, I promise. E11.621, L97.509, A41.9, or R65.20. Yes, put those in the chat. Nice job. All right, it's going to be, yep, A41.9. We were just talking about that. Just talking about it. Smiling Shark, you are killing it. You are killing it. 4 correct answers in a row. All right, we just got a few more before we end for the night. A patient with HIV disease is admitted for acute influenza. What are we coding? Are we coding J10.1? Are we coding B20 only, B20 and then J10.1, or J10.1 and then B20? What are we thinking? Oh, you guys killed this one. Yep, J10 point first and then B20. Yes, the influenza first. Nice job. Smiling Shark, what are you doing? You are killing it in first place. All right, 2 more questions for the night. Patient admitted with sepsis due to acute cholecystic and hepatitic failure. Okay, this one's crazy. I'm so sorry, guys. This is a lot. I'll give you guys more time next game. I will make sure to give you guys more time next game or make the questions easier. This is rapid fire. All right. And then we just have one more question for the night. Let's see what it is going to be. All right, last question of the night. Pregnant patient admitted for COVID-19 pneumonia. What is coded first? Are we doing U07.1, O98.5, Z3A, or J12.82? A pregnant patient is admitted with COVID-19. What are we coding first? What are we coding first? Exactly, yes. If it's a pregnant patient, we're doing the O code first. So O98.5. Amazing job. Look at all these little players over here. Smiling Shark, you did great. All right. Again, I know that was super fast. That was like a lot of review all at once. But I will make sure you guys have a lot more time next time for sure. And I will go ahead and share my exit screen so we can, all right, so we can end the night. I hope that was just that was a lot of craziness. Okay. And I hope that everybody got a lot of reviewing. You guys were doing amazing on the scenarios. Amazing job, guys. Yes. And make sure, thank you so much, Miss Rosa, for putting the link in the chat. That is going to be to the feedback. Please fill that out so we know how we can better help you guys as far as learning goes, as far as, doing these classes. If we're doing something good, if you think we can work on something, we definitely want as much feedback as possible. So we can have the best learning experience. And then, yes, don't forget to like the video, and this is going to be recorded. So if you want to go back and look at those crazy fast questions so you can answer them a little better and take your time, you are more than welcome to do that. And we hope that you guys join us next Monday for some more guideline mastery sessions. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much.